But let's get into Texas A&M, boys and girls, and I got some numbers. That's what we do. So here we go. I put Lagway as the picture because, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Now, I got to pull up some numbers here. I'm not usually the number guy, Dave is, but, I have my feelings and I try to, obviously I'm a Gator, right? We know how I always approach these things, but I genuinely try to come at it from a non-biased opinion as best as possible. It's very easy for me when I go on the Duck channels and the other channels that we have to have a healthy conversation because I don't have a personal bias with it. And it's so refreshing when I'm able to have like a genuine conversation because I don't have that like internal thought, that internal Gator just like pumping through of like I say a thought, I'm like, yeah, F it, we're gonna win by a million. It's tough for me to do those things. And again, I take a look at Texas A&M. I'm hearing about Mike Elko's defense, the things that he brings. I go back, I take a look at what he did at Duke last year. I think they ranked the last 2 years they ranked in the top 50th at defense. His first year at Duke ranked 132nd. So I'm trying to, kind of configure this his first year at Texas A&M. The talent at Texas A&M that he came into is much greater than it was at Duke when he got there, but quickly turned Duke around. Duke became not a powerhouse, but I would say a legitimate threat in the ACC for the last 2 years. Obviously had Riley Leonard on offense as well. If they had that, I think they beat FSU last year. That's besides the point. I'm rambling. So hearing about defensively what's going on. So I'm going to go by the numbers, right? I looked at PFF scores as well. I kind of broke that down, but it's tough with 2 games to really get a full picture of things. Defensive line, their trenches, they win the battle on trenches offensively and defensively when it comes to PFF. But here it is kind of as a whole. So as defense, they rank 73rd. And here's the one pro one before I go into this too. They've played a top team in Notre Dame. We played a top team in Miami, and they played a cupcake. And they played McNeese State.
Miami's top team.
Dave, we played Sanford. So in reality, there is some, I would say, equalness to this because we both played. The big caveat is we've had 2 different quarterbacks. So we've got two extremes here that are affecting things. So, but defensively, I would say is about the same, right? In the sense of who we played up against. And they'll rank 73rd out of our 87th. Now, offensively, I think you could argue that Miami was better than Notre Dame, given the fact that we saw Notre Dame only put up X amount of points. Riley Leonard is not what Cam Ward is. We learned that pretty quickly Saturday. Now, Cam Ward obviously, I think, has an injury as well, but that's besides the point. So defensively, they're not really popping off the page. Offensively, we rank 45th. Clearly, though, the issue with that's highly skewed with what happened in week 2. And I know that. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, we won this side of the ball because I know where it comes from. The pro is we still have that guy on our team. Now, will he play? We don't know that. Rushing offense. This is what I really think where we're going to find out. This is what's going to happen. This is the battle of the trenches. So we have not ran the ball very well at all. Week 1, we didn't. And week 2, we didn't need to. Week 2, I think we did run the ball actually pretty well. Jaden Ball did. I think you said he averaged, 7 yards a carry, 6.9 yards a carry? He looked fantastic.
Like 9.3. At one point, it was like 9.3. Let me look it up real quick because I'm interested.
I'll keep rambling while you do that. Go ahead.
When I looked at it last time, let's see. Jaden Ball. I'm in the wrong game. Go ahead. Just keep going.
So rush offense, they have 24. I took a look at their running back, Amari something. He's high. He ranks pretty high in PFF.
8.5.
8.5. Amari Daniels. Again, 6'9". Nothing crazy. I think he averages like 6.2 a carry or 5.8 a carry. So nothing crazy. Again, they're just winning the trenches battles. Got great offensive linemen. Passing offense, though, we rank 32nd out of 118. Again, you got to think that's a little bit skewed, given the fact that we had the DJ Lagway. So this hard. But here's where I am looking. This is where I'm really starting to get into things. Is the Connor Wingman. He has not been what people thought he was supposed to be. I had him low on my list as well. I don't think originally I put the list together. I didn't put him in my top 10 quarterbacks because nothing that I saw excited me. But he had a ton of hype coming out of high school. Didn't play the last 2 years very much due to injury. I think only played like 12 starts combining for those 2 years. And so I'm not sold on Connor Wingman. In the first 2 games, he hasn't looked anything exceptional. Even he has one of the worst QBRs in college football. Mertz is lower than him. I understand that. But Connor Wingman is their guy. This is where I really think we have to take advantage. And here's the pro. Yes, they're ranked 24th in rushing, but our rush defense hasn't been atrocious. Look, I think we got bullied against Miami. They didn't have big runs, but they just controlled the line and they kind of just slowly brought us along. But nobody's busting through like they were last year with the Ray Davises. So I'm hoping there's kind of a plus minus there negative when we force Connor Wingman into a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. It's not a Cam Ward back there that can move his feet. It's not a Cam Ward back there that can sling it, 60 plus yards. We haven't seen that Connor Wingman. Not saying that he can't become that Saturday, but that's where I think we can bring the advantage is we got to get into the 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and let Connor Wingman become the guy. Now, pass defense, unfortunately, we rank 112th, where they rank 23rd. So the moment I find us to have an advantage, we seem to fall back. Now, I don't think that's due to cornerback play. I think it's more due to the line not providing enough pressure. And I think that Cam Ward game really torched us on the ratings, if I'm being quite honest with you. So that's where I am with the data. I'll pass it back to you now, Dave. Give you some thoughts. Let me catch my breath, and then we'll wrap up this A&M versus Florida Gator comparison here.
Yeah, and it sucks too because it's really hard to do stats, especially at the beginning of the season. Because like if you play 2 cupcakes at the beginning of the season, then your stats are going to be like top 10
Inflated
everywhere.
Sure.
Yeah, and look, like you look at it, I think the biggest thing that comes off to me on the stat chart is rush defense from Texas A&M. That's where Florida and Napier's bread and butter is because he likes to run the football. They're 109th right now. They played Notre Dame, then they played they had a
McNeese
cupcake
State.
last week, didn't they? Yeah, McNeese State. So I mean, you look at just the rush defense. Okay, well maybe we have an advantage there. Maybe we can run this football. Offensive line wise, against their defensive line, I don't know. Maybe there's a balance there. I have no clue. But I would say that if Florida, I think Florida can still win this game if they start Graham Mertz. Believe it or not, I think they can, just based on how I've seen Texas A&M play. But I think you have a way better chance of beating A&M if you start DJ Lagway. But
He's back.
I will say that like if you like I'm looking up the stats right now and you can Texas A&M is averaging 32.5 points per game and they're only allowing 16.5 points per game, whereas Florida 31 and allowing 24 points per game. So obviously those are going to be kind of skewed just because of 2 FCS opponents or a FCS opponent, and I guess they played one too. So I mean, matchup for matchup, I would say that maybe Florida has the better quarterback situation. Probably running back or maybe running the ball against the run defense would give them an edge here. But I think I don't think A&M is one of those teams, especially for Florida, that you can just come out flat like you did against Miami. They'll torch you all day long. And I think that, maybe with the new confidence of Lagway and maybe inserting him into this game somehow with Graham Mertz will eventually get you the victory. It's just so hard to predict who's going to win this based on like who's going to start, how many times we're going to see Lagway, how many times we're going to see Mertz. Is Mertz going to come back from his 91-yard game that it was just terrible? But I think the play calling was really terrible in that game as well. It's questionable. Like it's one of those. I guess I don't even know what the spread is right now, but like in my head, like there's certain advantages I think A&M has, and I think there's certain advantages that Florida has against A&M. So it's really hard to pick. But I think the X factor would be DJ Lagway in this game.
The big thing for me, that Miami game I keep going back to because that was obviously the big game.
Also, I will say Eugene Wilson being questionable can be a factor too.
Yeah, I think he's fine. But yes, it could be. You go back to that 3rd and 5, that first play where we run that's jet sweep and Eugene just gets absolutely, I think it was Eugene, just gets absolutely obliterated. To me, that's the perfect time to throw in DJ Lagway, especially against Miami. What he brings, the versatility that he brings, especially now what we know. Now, would he have had that same confidence in week 1? I don't know. But that to me, Mertz comes in, I've got to see DJ Lagway. If you got a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2 situation across the 50, you got to bring in DJ Lagway and let him do what he does. He gets the ball off quicker. He's just able to move around the pocket. And again, you want to be able to extend drives, extend plays to wear down their line. That's something we have not done in the first 2 games at all. We just haven't really had any rhythm because DJ comes in and just scores on a dime, right? I mean, there's plenty of times where they just scored very quickly. So defensively, we're kind of getting back out there quickly. There hasn't been that rhythm that Billy likes to establish early on. I believe we should be able to squeeze it out of him again. Connor Wingman, if you think about it, Connor Wingman is probably going to be the outside of Sanford, the worst quarterback we play all year. And hear me out, okay? KJ Jefferson, I'm not thinking he's a fantastic, but his ability to run and what he's already done to us, he's already beat us. I can't say that Wingman's going to be better than him, right? We've got Blake Shapen at Mississippi State from Baylor. That kid's looked really good the first 2 games. I think he's better than Connor Wingman up until this point. Brock Vandergriff, I think, is hit or miss. He got absolutely obliterated on Saturday against South Carolina, so you can kind of argue he's down at close to that, but I think Vandergriff, can get expanded. This is his first season starting, so keep that into perspective. Then you got Nico at Tennessee. Obviously, he's been balling out. Carson Beck. We've got Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. And then, of course, DJU. So that's the next worst quarterback, but I don't think he'll be starting come that point. So, and this isn't a shot towards Connor Wingman. That just shows you the talent that we're playing at quarterback. So for me, this goes back to how it was in Miami. We all know it's a must win, but if we're where we heard we were all off season, this is you have to go and win this game. I don't see how you do. And look, I've found myself sitting here before when we get absolutely clapped, and we might. I'm not trying to sit here and I'm trying to be reasonable with this, but when you take a look at everything, they don't scare me as much as people say. Again, the biggest thing that people are trying to say is the Elko defense, his ability to mix and confuse people, and I think that's where Mertz brings an advantage. I think just his experience in the game will be able to elevate him. But I just keep going back to the fact that DJ's a baller. He's a gamer.
Yeah.
There's something special about him.
I mean, along with the rush defense, if it holds up to that ranking, I mean, like you insert Lagway, and it opens up your run game a lot more because the quarterback can take off, running back can get the ball handed off. You could do play action and really throw off their defense. I mean, there's many things you can do with a dual threat quarterback with that kind of talent that you can't do with Graham Mertz. And I think that is what Florida Gator fans are really wanting to see on Saturday. Will we see it, though? It's the big thing. Like, does Lagway get 15 snaps? Does he get 30 snaps? I mean, we won't know until game time, but I would fully expect Mertz to come out there with the football. And if Mertz is having success throwing the football and he looks completely different from what he did in week 1, he's going to stick with Mertz. But you'll probably still see Lagway in the game, but you probably won't get as many snaps as Mertz gets if he is successful down the field.
Absolutely. Boys and girls, 600 strong just about. Be sure to smash the button and subscribe. Of course, this show is brought to you by BetUS. And right now, A&M is favored by 3 headed into the swamp. So if you want to go get Gators +3 at betus.com.
Another close spread.
Close
Let's not
one.
get blown out.
I like the money line here for Florida, obviously being a Gator fan myself. So check out betus.com. Use code YouTube150 to get back 150% on your first 2 deposits and then 125% on your third deposit up to $2,000. So again, be sure to check out BetUS. We are brought to you by BetUS all season long. So that is that. I'm waiting on Tyler here to get into the pick'ems, and then we're going to go around the league where we talk about Lane Kiffin. But we do have a super chat here. James Moody, $5 says Lagway Sagway, baby. Let's go. Let's get the boy the ball. Thanks, Sheldon and Dave. Gators by 1 million, baby.
Gators by 1 million.
I love it. Absolutely. Let's see here. We are, yes, SEC opener. You know what's an interesting point that I was thinking about today too is that with the new playoff landscape, these first 2 games in reality, outside of our pride, don't really mean anything. I mean, they do, but you go win the SEC or you win your conference, it's an automatic lock now, when before it wasn't. Now, our schedule obviously is a gauntlet, but it's just kind of interesting to think about, how the season can be managed much differently than it was before, right? To where conference play has always been important, but it's elevated even much more. It's like, look, you kind of had 2 freebies. Not, you didn't want to lose them. You shouldn't lose them because if you don't go undefeated or go play in the SEC championship, then you can play off your schedule. That's your second kind of fallback, right? Well, we haven't given it away, but you got to think about it like that. A lot of teams have to kind of approach the season like that, where, if you lose non-conference games, you're not completely out of it because of how the new landscape. Yeah.
Well, that in your schedule right now, you could probably lose 3 and still get in there.
This schedule, I think Gators are 9-3. There, it's an automatic lock. 8-4, I think, is where things get questionable. I thought 8-4 would be a lock, but when you really look at it, I think Mizzou, Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, and I want to say Tennessee can all go 10-2. I think because there's not enough overlap. And so when you have that,
Well,
there's like 6 spots right there that's gone. You're going to get 3 to 4 from the Big 10. There's 10. You get an automatic G5. There's 11. I don't see that 8 and 4 getting in anymore.